We are live. The countdown is down.
Am I
Five,
supposed to like
four,
four,
three,
I hope
two,
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 one?
one.
one.
Poof!
And we are live
And
for
we
You should
are.
have a rocket.
Let him introduce us.
all right.
I thought you were just testing my ability to count.
So the first ever Smart Tech PS, and you'll figure out what PS stands for. You can see it on the right. I have with me my co-host Alexandre Blanc and our very first guest, Ron Craig. Welcome, Alexander. Welcome, Ron.
Hey,
Hello.
thanks for having me.
So
Thanks.
we
Yeah.
so jumping right in, I think this whole thing came about. Alexander and I started talking, I think, about a month ago, saying, "Hey, what about the consumer, right? The quote unquote connected consumer, and the whole talk about smart and smart tech." So I'm going to pose this question to both of you. I know, Alexander, you went through this also, right? We went shopping for a TV about a month ago, and all we could find were smart TVs, right? And it took quite a bit of effort to make it not smart.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you both. Let's, Alexander, I'll start with you, right? I mean, everything that you buy from a coffee maker to a TV to everything is connected these days. What are the implications if you just follow it by default and say yes to everything, and then you go live?
Well, it's open by default. Actually, yeah. I mean, even if everything we buy is connected, doesn't mean that we have to connect that stuff. So that's one thing. And you know, we reached something that everybody love connected stuff. We know we love gadgets and stuff. I love them too. But because I know a bit more about them, I'm kind of more careful. And connecting all of this is kind of opening the door to many things. So people, and you know, people like consumers, they don't want to think about how deep it works, and they want that thing to work and do what it's supposed to do.
Correct.
Like you want a TV, you want to watch TV, you don't think about that stuff. And now the crazy stuff, like you spoke about the TV, you buy it, and first thing when you pour on that stuff, you have to accept a license. that drives me nuts. I mean, I just bought a screen, you know, a TV, and why do I have to accept? And then if you read, and people don't read because you know they want to play with the TV, it's super cool, super nice. But the fact is that if you run into that, I mean, you don't want to connect it. So yeah, and that's the whole scope. And it's getting there, and we are not going to change the way the technology is evolving. So I'm really happy that we can actually speak about this, see how we can handle that, and I mean, take the best of it while protecting the critical information about us. Yeah, no, that's about it. And yeah.
Ron, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I mean, I don't know if I call them smart devices or smart TV. I think they're more like shart. But you know, it's like you know, the problem with them, I think, you know, I think Alex really hit it on the nail on the head here, is that, you know, everybody likes convenience, and you know, you know, I don't know if there's really a lot of place for them, but the problem is you can't go get any device nowadays that doesn't have any kind of, you know, connectivity component to it. It's virtually impossible. I don't even think you can get one of the low level Vizio, you know, pieces of crap tech. You know what? Oh, we're not getting a sponsor any day. You know, it's like it's so troublesome because you know, potentially the newer TVs and newer devices that are coming out, you know, they may not have the default 00000 you know, passcode, which of course everybody knows to exploit. It's so easy to find that. And you know, they weren't locked down to say only allow from the same network, and it doesn't really matter anyway. I mean, we know people have the capabilities to get on and even get on your network and even spoof a MAC address and become part of the network. So that's not even really, that's more like obfuscation than security really today. True. So, you know, they come on there and they start broadcasting things to the TV that your children can see. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, that came out, and I posted about it about a year ago, was that little girl that was talked to by the predator that talked through their bedroom window. When I saw that, I lost my shiat. You know, I think I hit LinkedIn like, you know, 10 minutes later after I read that, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. You know, I mean, I can't even imagine if that was my child. You know, if some predator was sitting there talking to them through their bedroom camera. And this is what we're seeing, where security is not just an afterthought. It wasn't even thought of at all. And it's just dangerous.
So going back to something that I know, Alexander, you mentioned this. So same thing that you say, right? When you have to accept things and you are in a hurry as a consumer to get to watching YouTube or watching your favorite channel or whatever else there is. But it's not just once, right? So in our case, we bought the TV, and then what happens? Oh, software update.
Oh, yeah.
So the update happens, and I've already given my preferences, which is no to location, no to analytics. And again, you give me with the same set of things with everything by default ticked off. So, I mean, what sorts of things does how consistent and how vigilant can you be all the time? And this is just one device, right? So
yeah. It's a complex situation, and it comes with awareness of the user. Like in my case, I saw that story about Samsung recording the habit of the user, like the TVs. And they've been caught spying on people. It was my favorite brand at some point because they do great screens. But when they got caught up stealing people data on smartphones and the TV again, I said it's not acceptable. LG as well. I have a LG TV, and knowing that, I decided that I'm not going to connect it. Like in my case, I use it as a screen, and thankfully, because so far you can still use it as a screen and it kind of works without having to accept or connect. We're going to reach a point where manufacturers are going to make it mandatory to connect to be able to use it. But that's a nonsense, and hopefully consumer will resist to that because, not everybody has a connection all the time. I mean, even if you use that in the chalet, back in the mountain or whatever. And then my approach was to use, I have a PlayStation, and I use that as my media player. I know Sony as well has some data collection stuff, but because it's connected for the update and the game and stuff, I want to limit my digital footprint online, and I decide to only connect the minimum amount of assets. So basically, PlayStation is my go-to for Netflix, video streaming and stuff, and the TV remains just a screen because I don't need it to be connected. And also, they go with cheap onboard systems that are pretty slow when you use them, and the remote control isn't really convenient. So on my side, the trade-off is the PlayStation as a player or a PC or whatever that you can use. But so that's the way I do it. But you spoke about, all the kitchen appliances that come connected today. And we really have to take the weight between what it brings, the pro and cons, and what you risk. Because we see that consumers don't already have the ability to secure their own router. It's all exposed and hackable. So right now, we reach a point where they connect devices that are not secured by default. They didn't think about security by design. And they plug that on their own network, which is most of us, every people, except like some really advanced people a bit, like me a bit as well, but they have a flat network, one Wi-Fi, they have relay and mesh network at home, and they connect everything on it. So the thing is that TV or that refrigerator or whatever, fridge, they are sitting on your network, and this is running a small embedded server inside, which can actually access all your network. So it's a huge backdoor. So when you plug that stuff, it's not only the data that thing is collecting, it's the vulnerability that it brings to your network, which could do the famous known like lateral move. Lateral move is someone hack a device, and from that device, it's going to jump to other devices in your network. That's one approach. But the other approach is like network poisoning. Basically, and one of the attack paths could be, because you are on a flat network, that you take over the fridge or the TV, and then you poison the DNS, the domain name servers, which, when you type google.com or whatever, brings you to the server. It's actually looking for an IP address. And if you poison that stuff, when people type an address, they could end up on a nasty server that is easier to steal credentials. So if it's just Google, who cares, unless you log onto your email. But if it's your bank account, then we have an issue. So you see where I'm coming? I'm going to speak about network segmentation. But network segmentation for home, it's tough. In organization, we speak about VLANs. And but people have no idea. They want to plug and work.
Correct.
So I have a solution for that, and basically you need to plug your IoT, Internet of Things, like any connected stuff, on an isolated network. And to do this, there is a simple way. You can buy a cheap, it's called travel router. I think you can find on Amazon online, because these days this is the only way to get stuff at home with the pandemic. Amazon or any ship. For like less than $30, you can have something called travel router, and it's running OpenWRT on it. It's a Wi-Fi access point, and you plug that on your network at home, and you can basically have a Wi-Fi signal on that and hook all your IoT stuff on that network. Or you did the opposite, but this way you can have a Wi-Fi network for all the, let's say, uncontrollable, unpatchable things. Because we're gonna, because we don't have patch management, we don't have security updates on that stuff. So all these same risk level things, like any appliance, anything you connect, should end up on these stuff. And when we speak about IoT, it's also, those smart speaker stuff. There is the 24/7 spying device, like the Alexa and all these stuff, which is a huge issue to me, that I don't want even that thing to be in my place. But I'm also speaking like you have like Sonos system, and IKEA sell those speakers, and you connect them to the network as well. And you should be surprised if you go on, like people don't know that, but there is a website called Shodan that scan the internet and show you all the exposed device online. People should go on
Alexandre, that. There's a question from Kirk about
the travel router.
Yes.
Actually, I should put that in the chat. I'm gonna give me a sec. I'm gonna copy the link on LinkedIn and paste that in the chat as well. It's one example. And even yeah. So yeah. So where was I? About
you're talking about
the speakers.
Yeah.
Sonos speakers. Now you go on Shodan and you just type Sonos. Oh man, you're gonna see this thing come with the plug and play port. Help me run.
For the plug and play, right? So
but when the device can open a port on your router.
Yeah, UPnP.
UPnP.
Yeah, that's it. UPnP. Thank you. It's evening and I'm tired. So
I hear you.
UPnP is a threat. That thing should be disabled by default. It was there before to allow a video conferencing device at all times. But sadly, most of the routers actually support that thing. And when you look at Shodan, you're going to see that many Sonos appliances are directly exposed on internet. They show the server version and all the stack connected, and people have no idea about that. So that means that if you hack that Sonos stuff, you are in people's network. So you could, like the nice bad thing, play a nasty song very loud, and I'm going to let people decide which thing is a nasty song and which thing is a nice song. And
you mean like sure.
I mean, it depends on which area you are. Like, like some people.
Yeah,
anyway. So some like traditional. I'm not gonna say that because a lot of people.
So let me ask something to Ron, which you brought up, Alex, which is from a consumer standpoint. This is great, right? The network segmentation, keeping it separate. But you also mentioned two things. Is this something that consumers can and should start doing, which is really putting who they believe? Should they start leading with vendors that are actually hearing? So Ron, is there some kind of consumer activism that you see at play over here, or we just kind of, hey, we just have to take what comes at us?
I have to, being in this industry for so long, if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would basically say people are oblivious and they want to stay that way. So I definitely have seen a rise in people's awareness. Now, that could be a projected social stigma, or that they're basically projecting that they are more aware. Now, whether they're actively being more aware and taking precautions at home, I'm still on the fence whether that's happening. I think people are still succumbing to instant gratification, convenience. And I mean, I have a story, I'm not going to say who, but I had someone who followed me for a couple of years who used to comment on all my posts about MFA. And they were like, oh, well, yeah, you got to get that on. They were like a hardcore advocate. They were on there, bashing fists against walls, get that MFA on, like Ron says. And all of a sudden I get a message from them on LinkedIn that, tries to sell me some Bitcoin and some weed. And I'm thinking, well, okay, that's okay. I mean, if he likes that stuff. And then all of a sudden I get a message after, sorry, my account was hacked. And I go, what happened? Well, I didn't have MFA on. You were just on my post for 2 years telling people, what's wrong with you? So it's like, that shows me that, what people say they do and what they are really doing don't always mesh up. And I think, we have to get to a point where, people have to take an avid interest in the safety of their family, because I don't think that they understand or they realize exactly what's at stake. And I think that's what we're failing to really present this message, really well to people, because, if there's nothing to lose, then there's no point in taking any action. You might as well just keep going on with your day like it was any other day. So people don't really understand. And until it happens to them or to somebody close to them, it might as well not even exist. The problem doesn't exist in the world. So I think, we have to make that a lot more, whether it's through videos, whether it's through awareness training, whether it's through, some sort of, role play, something that really stands out and says, hey, look what just happened. And that's where that camera exploit where they were talking to that child really came to me. And I think we should probably share that out every day for the next 5 years and really get people to understand. Now, it's not about getting people so terrified and worried they don't do anything, because we know fear can be used.
Correct.
You can go too far, and then people will just basically, it'll be muted and they'll put their head in their sand. But I think we have to make people understand that this is an investment. This is an investment in your home security. This is an investment in your home and your family safety, because you don't want a predator on a camera talking to a child, and that they caught that. But that person could have been very strategic and could have talked to that child secretly in their room without those parents knowing for 3 years, and then slowly, got them, to do things or lured them outside or something like that. I mean, it could have been catastrophic. And this is what we're up against. And I think people really need to start paying attention to say, do you need this device in your home? Do you need to have these cameras? And if you do have them, do they have to be connected to the internet? So they have to start asking these questions and really understanding, do I need them there? Do I need to have them in this fashion, in this format? Do they have to be on the internet? Do I need to be able to watch my camera from my work, at the office and see it?
Yeah.
You probably don't.
So here is an interesting one. I wanted to kind of share this because it kind of got to me a little bit. Again, just along the same dimensions that you were talking, Ron. So this link actually will take you to a website which has live camera. Yeah.
Is it Instacam?
It's not.
Because
it was actually reported by in a Canadian newspaper, and this guy actually did something which I found remarkable. Right. So he goes to the website. He actually identifies people over there. He actually reached out to somebody in Taiwan and told them, hey, your camera is live over here. Please go and change your default password and get it offline. So talking about activism, I mean, I found that remarkable that it's not just about, I mean, he didn't get impacted, but he saw that. He goes over there and he starts reaching out to people and making them aware of what's going on over here. So that for me, that was a kind of the first step of saying, okay, I mean, this show is kind of a small attempt to do that, to get people to, hey, what action can I take? But I found this, like, talking about the camera, and this was a security camera, right? I mean, I went to the website just to get a little, I was spooked, right? There was offices, there were swimming pools, there was, I mean, this is all over, and it's live, right? So how many people are even aware of when they turn on a security camera? It could be on the internet.
And, we're in the world now where everything is all about extortion. We're seeing this now. It's not ransomware now. It's extortionware. And that's the trend that's happening. Now, what I see coming in the future with these smart speakers that are in people's homes is that they're going to be able to get access to these audio feeds, and they're going to use those audio against the consumers. And they're going to say, hey, we heard you and your wife, talking about, this stuff and, having a nice drink of wine and, what's good, whatever you do. And, it's like, they're going to start, reaching out And because they have their IP, they can reverse it. They can find out who they are. They can put that together, and they're going to start sending people little audio clips to their emails and say, hey, look what we heard, and guess what else we heard. And the thing is, because we know the way attacks work, and the way, because we get this all the time. We get emails that say, hey, here's an old password. We have your password. We saw you on the site doing you know what, and we're going to tell everybody in your contact list unless you pay. They probably don't have your password. They probably don't have a video of you, but it doesn't matter. They're using the fear. They're using FUD against you. And so with these smart speakers in your home, not just the cameras, but even the speakers, if they're collecting audio and they get access to that audio, of course they're going to take that. They're going to send it to you. And you know what? They don't even have to have it. They only have to prey on your fears that you might have it. Yeah. So they can just send you an email and say, we have of you arguing with your wife last night. And you know what? The thing is, they always play the numbers game. You send that to 1 million people, there's going to be 10,000 people that were arguing with their wife last night that actually fits the story.
Wow.
Right. And that's what they do with these passwords and the videos to say that you visited these adult sites. They know that people, a percentage of the people, a demographic, that's the problem with tracking, is they have demographics to say anybody over this age at this area frequents, adult sites this many, this percentage of the time. So what we do is we email blast campaign to people in that demographic, send that out, and they know that 5% of the people might actually have been there. Wow. Context, right? And that's what it is. It's fear making you act, even though you actually weren't there at all.
And that's the criminal side of things, because you speak about hacking into the stuff and using threats, But right. There is also another issue, because one of the topic is privacy. And getting back to these smart speakers, we saw many cases where law enforcement have been using a recording of the smart speaker as a proof for domestic violence and stuff. And I was speaking with my wife, and she heard that story, and she said, and you see where it's tricky, that, then the device did help a woman to be... to prove that she's been assaulted, and it did help. So in that case, I'm not really against that thing, and that's a big issue, because you see, even she knows all that stuff because she lives with me and she's aware of the threat and stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, that's common sense when it comes to realizing that these devices do more than what they pretend to do, because they say no, they don't record out of when you ask them for. But the fact that law enforcement use recording that were obviously passive, because the people that do an attack are not going to ask for the device to record that stuff. So we have a privacy issue, and we have, to me, it's more than that, because if it's recording everything, and it is, and some people say no, it's not, because I've been watching the network traffic. Your phone have the ability to do speech to text by the device itself. So without network traffic. And there is something called asynchronous access. So this device, and like a tiny micro SD card can have 1 terabyte of data. So 1 terabyte of data is days, even weeks of audio recording. So that device have the ability, and if I would have to design a spying device, I would do it this way. I would hide the behavior into the regular usage. Basically, if someone asks a question or asks to stream music, I will use that active time to hide the data exfiltration.
Yep.
And storage is cheap, so that thing can store as many stuff as you like. And even if it's text, speech to text, that's super easy. It can send hidden in the header of a DNS query. You will have all the text first, and then the audio recording compacted will go later on. And with all the technology, AI, intelligent stuff, I see that as a big issue due to the work of people, especially now that people are working from home with the COVID stuff. How many people realized that they were breaking NDAs? And I think about medical people, remote clinic. I think about lawyers. I think about accountants that have this stuff around, and they're on a phone call, and that thing is recording everything. So it broke the NDA. Like even if you are on an engineering project and you have NDA, you broke it. And so that's one thing. Now, who's collecting the data? That's obviously the manufacturer. When we saw Amazon, they do an amazing service on the delivery in the pandemic. That's cool. But there is a bad side as well on this organization to me when they did offer out of generosity these Amazon Echo stuff for the whole university in the States. It was free, you know, and they put that in the dorms room. When you think about that, all the big corporations of today, like Facebook, Twitter, they were born at university. So what happened now, giving this stuff away, they do collect the IDs before they have even the chance to get maturity. And people don't realize that they don't realize that their chance is stolen before they even have a chance to start, because then the big player in technology will do everything on fast track. They have the resource, they have the money, the resource, the technology, everything. So if there is a good idea, they will do it. And when students arrive to the market, it's over. It's already done and gone. So privacy and security goes the same way. You know, I'm not claiming that we should take down Amazon or whatever, but the chance of innovating for people is closely tied to privacy, which also means to me privacy equals freedom. And I understand the balance between law enforcement that need access to the data. This is about, you know, encryption, backdoors and stuff. Okay, I understand that law enforcement need to take down the bad guys. I think that they should have innovative way to do it without having a mandatory backdoor in the stuff. And I think they have the capability right now. But when it comes to private organization, like the manufacturer of smart speakers, it's not okay that they take the right to pull the data and do whatever they like. People don't realize, you know, when they use Siri, Amazon, or even the Windows stuff. What's the name of that Windows voice assistant? Cortana. So all these stuff were sent to humans that were in charge of listening to the recordings, to do the translation, to enhance the AI algorithm to be more efficient on stuff. So do you think that when people speak to their computer or around their computer, they know that someone, a human, is going to actually listen to everything? Most people are going to say, whoa, what can it do, you know? But then we switch to a deep fake.
Yeah, so I have two questions over here, because I think the things that you mentioned, right? One is, I mean, taking just kind of the smart speaker, and Ron, I'm going to pose this to you, which is, I think this was CES last year, where Alexa kind of dominated the show, but part of it was embedded inside. So Alexa inside.
Oh, yeah.
So it's one thing to see it physically. I mean, I have my glass of water over here. I know it contains water, but if it was embedded inside, I mean, I don't know how much water my body has, right? So if you have these smart speakers embedded, I mean, it's out of sight, out of mind, and it's almost like Intel inside, right? From whatever many decades ago. So it's Alexa inside.
Yep.
Now what, right? What does the consumer do?
Yeah,
well, that's the thing.
And that's
I mean, what can you do? I mean, of course, it is being advertised. I mean, you do see that it has Alexa inside, but I think, you know, people equate that with convenience inside. Yeah. That's the problem with very good marketing campaigns. And what, you know, and what that is, I mean, all it is marketing. That is a very strategic and smart marketing move. And they might as well equate that to convenience, because that's what everything comes down to. They know what makes people tick. They know what makes people click buy. And convenience, there's very little that can beat that. Convenience and status, you know, something that makes me stand out and look good. You know, it's like if you can get something that matches both of those things, and Apple is somebody from the hardware side for the last, you know, 30 years have been absolutely brilliant in that regard, that Apple is considered to be a high-end product because they designed it that way. It wasn't because they, you know, it is good quality equipment. I really like their stuff, but it doesn't matter. They've done a brilliant job in marketing their business. So it's about the high-grade consumer product because they said it was. And they've done a very good job of marketing that. And that's what I think, you know, when you say Intel, you know, Intel inside was, you know, again, it's still marketing. It's saying we know what Intel stands for. They did a very good job of what that brand means. Yeah. And same with Alexa. You know, Alexa has done the same thing. With Amazon's done that with Alexa, so that they know it's a very good voice assistant, and it is good. I mean, it is very good at what it does. So when you see that, people go, oh yeah, that can make my life so much better and more convenient. When, if you really think about it, does it? I mean, you say play this song. Yeah, that's a little bit convenient, but it doesn't really do much more beyond that. It actually is taking more from you than it's giving back. And I think that's what we have to always remember on these devices is no one ever thinks about what they take. It's always, they think of what they're getting or what it's giving, but they actually are taking, and they're taking your data. And, one thing that's worried me for the last couple of years, and I've heard this from, especially from the younger group, the Gen Z group, they basically have decided that they don't have any privacy left, so they don't care anymore. And, we have to start changing that stigma. We have to change that mindset and that culture to say, no, you do have some privacy left. Now, I always look at privacy from two perspectives. I look at it from static and dynamic. Your static privacy, where you live, what your postal code is, what your phone number, that's gone. You're not getting that back. You can't delete that. It's gone. It statically defines, you in the real world. It's very difficult to get that back. But I think, what's actually more important and more valuable to companies, they don't care where you live. They don't care about any of that stuff. What they care is how long you hovered over that ad, how long you looked at that video for, because that actually tells the story of your behavior. And once I understand your behavior, I can get you to buy anything. Right?
Yeah, you come to that point about manipulation and knowing people and knowing the triggers. And I speak about emotional triggers, and positive one, not about threatening or FUD. It's about knowing what people really like and what will make them thrive. And when you know that, you can actually manipulate them. And that's the whole connection with social media and all the stuff. And it's deeply connected to freedom, because I speak about freedom, but when I speak about freedom, I think as well about freedom of thinking and freedom of using common sense and, thinking out of the box. And people, not everybody like to think, but when you have your own decision-making process, you think about what do you like, who you are, what's your place in society. And if you think about all the manipulation scheme around and you realize that this is not you, or it may be that it's not you that picked anything, then you start to try to understand the decision-making process as a human being. Yeah. And we are weak, the working behavior of the brain is well known. And since the 80s, when we get the first subliminal picture in TV ads where we could be manipulated, right. Now it's extremely advanced. So my concern is more, can we actually really have an opinion? Is our conviction really what it is? And it goes to politics as well, speaking of manipulating the election. And freedom and privacy is deeply linked to that as well. Who's going to manipulate an election? With information control. And when we see that most of people take as the main source of information social media, which is known to be biased because they sell information positioning. So I like to speak about privacy and security because to me, this is freedom. And freedom, it's up and down. We cannot go and do whatever we like. The freedom of someone stops where the freedom of someone else starts. So we live in a society, there are rules. But it's more about the freedom of decision-making process, really enjoying what we have and thinking about that. And as Ron said, the new generation is all about convenience, immediate gratification and satisfaction. All these games that are very addictive, you click and it's flash, 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 it's super interactive and you burn all your time on that. This is because the brain mechanism and the addiction to the pleasure of doing such is well known. So is it what we want to be, bots, or do we want to be master of our career? I became LinkedIn top voice last year. And it's many, many hours of works. Sharing article, commenting and stuff. I didn't know about the top voice thing. And it was a nice surprise. And then people ask me, oh, did you do that? And, it's a lot of commitment. And it's a lot of thinking about commenting, adding value to each article. And I can do that because I keep my own judgment. I may be wrong. Don't take me wrong. I don't pretend to be right on everything. I have my analysis, which is out of my freedom of thinking. And I try to stay that way. And I really enjoy exchanging in a constructive way with other people, like you, like Ron, about issue, because sometimes they have different point of view, and this is very, very good to exchange and challenge each other on that. But that can only happen with people that are some privacy or are aware of that, and security as well, because you are not fighting and being obeying something you don't see controlling your life. So yeah, I know it's a bit more philosophical approach, but
no, it is very true. I mean, sometimes, like, I mean, I was talking to a CISO last week, and he said, hey, there's no such thing as free will anymore. Right? This whole thing about like how much of it is like, what is free will? So I'm going to ask both of you one last question, right? And this is something that is very personal to me because I've done it consistently for, I think, 3 years in a row, which is exercise my GDPR rights with LinkedIn. And I get the CSV, and every single time I'm blown away by the amount of data I've given, right? I mean, you post, share, link, but when you see it in a CSV consolidated form, it shocks you, right? So my question is, again, I'll start with you, Ron, which is, I mean, it's still, I can see it deeply embedded in your mind about just seeing this camera and this girl being subject to this stranger. What sort of, I mean, what would love, I mean, is it a shock treatment? Like for me, it's like, hey, looking at my digital trail. Now, LinkedIn does a fantastic job of putting it together and making it available within half hour and 24 hours in 2 chunks. And I just like to do that, right? But that's an extra step to an already distracted and overwhelmed consumer. What, in your opinion, I mean, what is it vendors? Is it regulations? Is it the law enforcement? Is it parental guidance? I mean, where does this come from so people can actually see the digital trail they're leaving behind, and hopefully that can spur some change?
Ooh, that's I definitely don't. We're not there for sure. I mean, there is no regulated or centralized place to say here's the digital footprint I have in this world. I mean, you could use OSINT and try to go out there and hunt and look and see and try to pull stuff, but the problem is, and I think this is going to be a problem forever, and I don't know if there's any solution, is I don't know what happens to the data that's outside of, the vendor. So let's say even for example, this post, which of course is video, it could be transcripted, but it could also be streamed by OBS on somebody's computer in another country and can take this video, they can manipulate it, they can deep fake it, they can do whatever they want. I have no visibility into that, and there's no way that I think we can ever get visibility into that in our current system and the current design of the internet and the way that we do things today. So that would be a fantastic service. I think that if somebody could find a way to act to the best of their ability, it's never going to be perfect. I don't even know if it's even going to get 25% of the way there. But if it can give some sort of aggregated view in a nice graph format and say, this is you, this is your digital footprint. And again, back to not the static stuff. The static stuff doesn't matter. It's the dynamic stuff, the stuff that you're generating every day. I think there was a stat that came out recently. I think Chris Roberts actually talked about it. That was saying that I think we've collected more data in the last couple years. 80% of the data we have today is in like the last 5 years or something like that. It's something crazy. For the last 200 years, or let's say, well, not 200, since we had digital equipment, we've only collected a small portion, and it's growing exponentially. And if that curve continues, we're going to be talking about petabytes and beyond of what's going to be available out there for people to actually get under control and get some sort of control back and some sort of visibility too. So in terms of what you have access to, I actually grabbed that CSV from LinkedIn a couple times myself. And yeah, I was quite shocked. Now, of course, I'm on there a fair bit, so I had a lot of data. Yeah. But it was pretty eye-opening that they had that amount and the detail. And of course, that's just stuff that they're really giving. I mean, we don't know how much they really have to give. Like, if I hover over an image, exactly how long was my cursor over it, because I know they are tracking that from what I've heard. That I think they call it like lead time or stay time or something like that.
Well time, I think. Yeah.
So I mean, stuff like that. I mean, and it comes back to the manipulation that's possible when you actually have that data, because they see, oh well, I'm scrolling through a feed and I'm going through, okay, post. Oh, I stopped. That's valuable data to advertisers and marketers. They can see that actually worked. I slowed down the scroll when I hit that. So they know that whatever was there is working. right? So, that is very powerful information to have available to you.
Alexandre, final thoughts.
Yeah, just on one thing, it's actually defining your profile and your interest, and this is the lever, to know how to trigger reaction on you and addiction. So that's one thing. Final thought is one of the way to fight against that machine stuff is, and I like it, it's to poison the data.
I was waiting you're going to get the adversarial machine learning.
Yeah, this is about it, and you see people with the clauses that has many face and stuff just to trick the recognition. But it's the same on the behavior. I mean, you can just put fake stuff, and I mean it's time and energy, and I understand that. I mean, but it could be quite fun to poison a bit of the data. You don't have to say everything. And also an approach I take is that I split channels. So when you are on one media like LinkedIn, you don't see the whole me. And that's also something true, people see our public face, they know what we usually speak about, but they don't see what happened on other channels. So when we spoke about Signal and Telegram, given the WhatsApp change of privacy rules, I don't use any Facebook stuff, but I use Telegram, Signal, Allvid software, and I speak about different things on different stuff. So that means that if one is corrupted, you don't have the full digital footprint of myself. And I even use many mobile devices, randomly, because one has no more battery, so I use the other one and I play with another one. And I think it's cool because you split the big picture, so no one has a full picture of you. You cannot escape the tracking and all that stuff. When you pass the customs, when we were allowed to do so, there is fast recognition, tracking and moves, and government leak that data or sell it, depends. So you cannot escape, but what you can do is avoiding having a single actor owning you. And when you do that, it's the beginning of a little bit of freedom, because you keep that window. And I grew in the 80s with the Terminator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then it was like, Skynet, the machine taking over the world. And when you see the news, we are heading that way. And I keep in mind, I'm just going to keep a little gap so as the machines may not know everything about me. And this is one of the consideration, and I most likely sleep less nicely than most of people because of all that thinking. But in the end, this is all about human being, freedom, society, and what we want to leave for our kids. And I see, they play with the tablet and stuff, especially with the pandemic, and it's so challenging to explain to them. So at least my kids know that they have to put tape on the camera, and they know about the risk. And they didn't see that movie because they are too young. And I think if I show them the Terminator 2 movie, I'm going to have hard nights for a while. But time will come. And so it's a daily fight. It's about awareness. We will not be able to change the evolution of technology. But what we can do is try to adjust it with some common sense consideration on the technology side, and on the user side, on consumer side, which we are, is awareness and adjusting the behavior so as we stay aware. And being aware is already a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I know this is full of stuff, and I know Alexandre, we're coming back next month. We're doing this monthly, last Thursday of every month. Ron, great to have you. Love your background.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, it's not background. I'm right here.
Okay.
Yeah, Elon Musk, he set me up yesterday, and I thought, just so I could do it from the. I'm actually on the outside. It's getting really cold though.
Stay safe and keep a good watch on Mother Earth and all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Ron, for joining.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ashwin.
Very much for letting me come and spend some time with you guys and talk about this cool stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you again. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.